Hi, my name is Gil Robertson, president of the African American Film Critics Association. And today we have a real treat for you. We are talking to the men who head up the cast of the upcoming Amazon movie, One Night in Miami, starting with Aldous Hodge, Kingsley Ben-Adir, Leslie Odom, and Eli Gorey. So I'm gonna let you guys do what you do so well, and I will see you on the other side.
Hello, everyone. Mercedes here with She Critiques in Atlanta. I thought this was a phenomenal film, one of my top five for the year. What I really like about this is that it's an evolution of growth for each of your characters, each of these men that we know and where we see them today. That room almost served like a pressure cooker for growth. Can you talk about where you think each of the characters you portrayed, where they were mentally when they first stepped in the room? We can have the same order as well.
I kick it off. That's a fantastic question. Um, I know that for Jim Brown in this particular time, he was going through his transition. It was that next year that he had, he was retired from the NFL, and then he moved on to film, and he was making that decision here where we find him. And then a few years after that, he started the Black Economic Union, I think around like 67, 68. So he was figuring out how to really take control of his value, the value that he put out into the world, but there was no return on interest. He wasn't getting it back. And he wanted to figure out how to get in front of that, how to get in control of that. And then also having the internal conversation of what does that mean, not just for him, but for the people around him, which then led to the establishment of Black Economic Union to help spread that knowledge and awareness and education of economic power for Black people. So where he is, I feel, is that transitional stage of professional and cultural growth within himself to understand what his real purpose is. It's not just about what he can get for himself. It's not what he can bring home. Just, if the culture ain't coming up, regardless of what you get for yourself, we not coming up. So I feel like he is in that moment trying to really explore the real value of his potential for the particular space that he's in right now, for the figure that he is. And, sitting in the room with three other monster figures, with the lights pointed at him, but also targets pointed at him. And they're just having that real conversation, I think, about their potential and their real purpose together, the work that they can do, because they do have so much power in their hand. And in this instance, power, it's really just a synonym for responsibility. So it's really a dialogue about what their responsibility is to themselves and to their people. So I'm gonna jump off here.
Yeah, in terms of like how Malcolm was feeling when he sets foot into that room, it's an imaginative interpretation of what he might have felt like. So I don't want to say that, I don't want to, say for certain how he, would have been feeling. But I think from research that there was definitely a strong sense that Malcolm's relationship with the nation was coming to an end, and that his relationship with Elijah Muhammad was seriously crumbling. He was on a ban. There were conflicting ideas about, politics and religion, and how much he was in the press and how much they didn't want him to be in. And I think there was a real sense that his life was in danger and things were changing for him in a real way. I mean, listen, I spoke to people at the Nation and stuff who said there's a completely different narrative, a narrative that is something separate to what we all know. But I think in terms of, for the sake of this story and for the sake of the biography that Malcolm put out there, and my rough sense that for this story, it was really important to show Malcolm in those stakes and to explore emotionally what it may have been like to be under that sort of pressure and to have that much weight on your shoulders in terms of being, right at the forefront of the movement, and all of the responsibility that he may or may not have felt like there was a little part of me, you know, as we were shooting, I was always like, why didn't you just go to Nigeria? Why didn't you just get out of Queens? Just like, why didn't you just run? Why didn't you take everyone and just go and take a break? And he stayed right in the danger zone. He stayed at his home, and he stood strong, and he refused to be pushed out, and he was, you know, tragically taken from us as a result. Like I think the interesting thing about coming into this film as an actor was like, this is such a unique opportunity to like have a go and guess what that might have been like, and to explore a different side to Malcolm in a way that maybe we haven't seen before. But as an actor, I tried to ramp the stakes up emotionally as much as I could, just to try and walk the line and see how far we could go with that, and keep it in and at the same time keep it grounded and yeah, try and maybe show part of Malcolm that we haven't seen before.
For Cassius, I think, you know, he just won the heavyweight championship of the world. He's the youngest ever heavyweight champion at that time. He was an 8-1 underdog. And what most people don't know is that he had been practicing Islam for several years. It wasn't something that had just come up. He told people that he was attending church and that he was a Christian when interviewed. I mean, he would make ambiguous statements. So they say, you know, do you go to church? Oh yeah, I go any city I'm in. I'll always make sure I'll find out where to worship, you know. And so he's obviously talking about the mosque, but he can't say it out loud. Or he'll say, you know, I pray every day, you know. But he was very smart about how he communicated with the media up until that point, when it came to that issue, because he knew he could be, you know, he could be ostracized, and his opportunities could be cut off before he really even had a chance to fulfill his calling. So at that moment, when he walks into that room with probably 4 of the most powerful men in the country, let alone black men in entertainment, and to be heavyweight champion of the world, and to be that young, and he dominated in the fight. It wasn't even close. I think he was just, I don't know if there's words, but elated. You know, I think he was just literally, I think you see it in the scene. It's something that you've worked for your entire life. He's been fighting since he was 12 years old as an amateur, and you know, he never lost a fight. He won a gold medal, he won Golden Gloves, he won national champion. You know, and coming from a background where he wasn't impoverished, but he was living under such severe Jim Crow law, where even though financially his parents were lower middle class or middle class, the oppression that he faced every day. You know, he threw his gold medal into the river in Louisville because they wouldn't let him eat at restaurants, even when he came back with his gold medal on. They celebrated him. He went in to eat wearing his gold medal, and they told him he couldn't eat there. So, you know, I think all that oppression, all that repression, all that ostracization, and not being allowed to really be who he was, in that moment he felt free, and he felt exuberant, and he felt loved because he was with the people that cared about him the most. And yeah, I think he was just full of joy at that moment. You know, I can say for me, getting this role to be able to, you know, honor that memory was like, you know, when I knew Gina King was directing it. I mean, I knew the script, and I knew this was a watershed moment in my career, you know. And so, and like I said, preparing for a role that I never knew was there, and I didn't know how it was going to be there for years, and then getting the opportunity to portray it on this kind of a scale, you know, I think I got a small glimpse into what it's like when you work so hard for something for such a long time, and then you actually get to hold it, and there aren't really words, you know, and it takes so long to even just, like, I'm still processing it, so I can only imagine that, you know, as he had lots of emotion stepping into that room, but it was probably months and months and maybe years and decades later reflecting before he could really process what that moment meant, you know. because it meant so much to so many people, to his family, to his community, to the nation, to his own legacy, and even now to us today to be making a film about it. I mean, it's still reverberating. So yeah, that moment is very, very powerful. That's how I can describe it.
Yeah, I think for Sam, you know, Cassius was so special to Sam. He was special to all of, you know, we all gather there because of young Cassius. You know, there's something about him. We all, we're so proud of him. We're so proud to know him. He's doing things that the three of us, you know, as great as we are, there's something about Cassius that he represents. You know, we all feel like we see ourselves in him, in that young man. So to be there with him on that night, what I wanted for Sam was to be full of life on that night. If people, you know, people, because of the tragic, unthinkable way that his story ends, there's a lot of people, that's all they know. I tell them I'm playing Sam Cooke and they're like, oh yeah, and didn't he, you know, there's some scandal in the way he died or something, you know what I mean? They boil him down to, you send me, a change is gonna come, and then he died in this tawdry, strange way. So anyway, I didn't want to deal with December at all in February 1964. Sam is gonna be gone in December. So some you know, because in art we deal with symbolism and representation. You know, we're telling a big story in this film. So I wanted, you know, some representation of that, you know, that like the star burns brightest before it's snuffed out kind of thing, you know, that on this night, if Sam could be full of life, you know, it would honor him. And I thought, you know, if December wasn't lurking at all in his mind, he doesn't know that that's the way his story is going to end. None of us know that. So he shows up there. He's excited to celebrate this monumental achievement for the race, for his little brother Cassius, and he wants to party. He wants to party and partake in the joys of this life and his success. And yeah, that's Sam.
Thank you all so much.